The Kenyan business community bore the brunt of Monday's protests led by the opposition, even as the financial markets remained indifferent to the street actions that featured sporadic violence. Businesses in most parts of Central Nairobi remained closed for the better part of the day as Azimio La Umoja One Kenya supporters engaged the police in running battles in protests that saw at least one person shot and hundreds of others arrested. Nairobi city centre remained deserted with premises staying shut as anti-riot police pushed back the protesters attempting to access Moi Avenue and Parliament area. Now, this morning, joining me from Nairobi, Kenya is Professor Lekan Iraki, who is an economist and faculty, University of Nairobi. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us on Business Edge. Hello, Professor, can you hear me?
How are you? Good morning.
All right, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, when President William Ruto came into power, he did mention that there are challenges, economic challenges ahead in the country. And he said that there are tough times ahead also. But he said that he will do all he can to deal with the country's debt and its effect on the country's economy. But then we have these protests going on in Kenya, has been spearheaded by the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. So the question is, are these protests necessary in the first place, even as much as the president has come out to say that there are challenges and he's doing, or he will do all he can to bring an end to it?
I think that's an interesting question, because if you follow the Kenyan polls last year, the politicians made a lot of promises that the prices will come down, that there will be jobs. So it's about 6 months since we got a new president, we got a new government, and the voters have not seen tangible evidence. So when somebody comes and tells them that the cost of living is high and it has not come down as promised by the new president or the new government, they are very deceptive. So in my opinion, what people need to do is be patient, because voting is much easier than cheating the economy. It is much easier than bringing down the cost of goods and services. Remember, some of these costs are being brought by external forces. War in Ukraine, drought, the aftermath of COVID. So I believe that even if it was Raila Odinga who became the president, the same problems would be there. So the question is convincing the people on the streets that things will get better as soon as possible. So it is important for the government in place to talk to people and convince them that it is important to be patient, because the economy will not turn loud overnight.
But then isn't that always the message that William Ruto has been trying to pass since he came into power? You talked about the fact that it's been 6 months, yes. And don't you think that 6 months is a little too short for him to start dealing with the issue of inflation as regards fuel, the cost of living, the prices of food in the market? I remember that some weeks back, he actually spoke to some investors, trying to woo these investors to partner with him and invest into the Kenyan economy. So don't you think that this is a little bit overboard for the Kenyan citizens to start protesting, knowing fully well that it's just about a few months that he came into power?
I didn't get your question. I think it was not very clear.
All right, so I said that, don't you think that 6 months is a little too short for the Kenyan citizens to come out and protest? Because I know that is a big challenge, and of course, when you have to deal with the issue of hike in the prices of food in the markets, high cost of living, hike in the prices of fuel that people have to purchase. And I remember that the William Ruto administration has been trying to woo investors to partner with them and invest in the Kenyan economy, looking at the potential that Kenya has. Now, don't you think that it's a little too overboard and too quick for the citizens to come out and start protesting?
I think that is the reality. That's a very short time. You cannot turn out an economy 6 months. But when you bring in politics, it's a different game. So when you look at these riots, you have to look at them in two aspects. One, the economic part of it. The price of goods and services have gone up. But you also have to look at the political grievances from the Raila Odinga part. They are saying that the elections were not fair. They were saying that they should have won. So probably the political part of it is bringing more riots than probably the economic part of it. I think an ordinary Kenyan on the streets knows that the price of goods and services will not go down overnight.
So how are these protests affecting small and medium business owners and enterprises in the country? Because some people are saying that in as much as these protests and agitations are meant to favor business traders, it's somewhat counterproductive for the Kenyan economy.
It's very interesting that the people who are rioting on the streets are the people who suffer most when they are riots. So it's actually a two-edged problem. So we go on the streets to demand that prices should go down, but at the same time, that makes our businesses go down. So it's counterproductive that you are saying we want low prices, but we also have to do business so that we can get work and get more money to cover the rising costs. So it is a double-edged sword. And I think what we need more than anything else is patience. The government comes up with appropriate programs so that people see something is being done, so that in the next 6 or so months, people can start seeing the fruits of the new government policies, government programs, including foreign prices of food and services. I'm so happy that last night it has been raining, and I expect in the next few months, the price of food will start going down, and I think people will start feeling that the prices are not as bad as expected. So nature is also fair to us.
Okay, so in an interesting twist, Professor, we see that equities on the Nairobi Stock Exchange set to be somehow bullish, with investors smiling away with about 1.68 trillion Kenyan shillings in terms of outcome and profits on the board. So what do you think led to this change, so to speak? Hello, Professor, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, so I said there's a little bit of change now, despite the fact that citizens of Kenya are on the streets protesting. According to what we know,
my network is not very stable.
Oh my! Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So what I'm saying is that according to what we know, the equities on the Nairobi's securities exchange is set to be bullish, and investors are said to be smiling on with about 1.66 trillion Kenyan shillings, despite the fact that there's a lot of protests and disruptions to businesses in the market. So what actually led to this twist in events?
That's an interesting question, because what the market is telling you is that Kenya has had such problems in the past and we have solved them. Even elections were nullified, and we still recovered from that. So what the market is telling you is that whatever is happening in Kenya is probably a part of Kenya's culture. Kenyans probably like protesting, but eventually it doesn't learn out of hand. People still go on with their businesses, people recover and go on with their lives. So the market is telling you, we have seen this before, and we expect this is going to settle, and life goes on.
All right, so earlier I did talk about the fact that President William Ruto was trying to woo investors to invest into the Kenyan economy. But now we're seeing this rate of civil unrest and destructions going on in Kenya. Now, what do you think the disposition of these foreign investors would be to this unraveling upheaval in the country?
It depends on whether the investors feel it is one-off event or something that is going to take place over a long period of time. But what I know is from our past experience, or from the past experience of Kenyans are very resilient people. The political contestants will probably sit down, talk to each other, come up with an amicable solution, and the investors will come back. Remember, Kenya is a very good market for those who come to do business here. So they will not be swayed because of one event. Most of them believe that the future of this country is very bright, and those are hiccups that can be looked at, that can be rectified, that can be sorted, and we go on with our economic lives.
All right. So what are the low-hanging fruits that you think we can pluck out from in terms of suggestions that can help Kenya start up a reconciliation process and can in some way douse the tension that pre-exists in the country?
I think one of the low-hanging fruits is for the government to come out, the president and his people to come out and tell the people of this country that this is our plan. And they did that very well when they were campaigning. They tell us this is what we are going to do to bring down the cost of food, the cost of services, the cost of fuel, and they give a time plan. And then they put all the policies into place, they implement them, so that in the next few months, people start seeing real life results of these government initiatives to bring down the prices. I think the other initiative I expect is let them sit and talk. Whether you are Raila Odinga, whether you are Ruto, we are all Kenyans. And you can be sure that at the end of the day, whether you voted for the government, whether you voted for the opposition, all those people are Kenyans and they deserve a good economy and a good lifestyle. So let them sit and talk and come up with a solution.
So then I'd like to ask, Professor, is the problem now with the key reform initiatives that President William Ruto is trying to bring on board, or the implementation? Because some people are saying that the economic challenges are quite overwhelming, and these reforms that Ruto is trying to bring on board might not be adequate enough to deal with these challenges. So what's the take?
I think Kenyans are very creative, very ingenious people. If they come together and talk to each other, whether in a position, right, whether you are an individual, whether you're an academic, whether you're in the church, if Kenyans can sit together, these are challenges we can go over. We went over COVID-19, we went over colonialism, we have gone over droughts. Kenyans have been able to overcome very many challenges, and this one, there's no way we cannot go over it. So let's come together as one nation, let's talk to each other, let's suggest solutions, let's implement them. This country is ours.
But then now that we are seeing that this may be having some sort of political undertone, do you think that there will be some sort of dialogue or consensus between the ruling party and, of course, the opposition leader?
Whenever that has happened in the past, whether it was with Daniel Arap Moi, whether it was with President Moi Kibaki, whether it was with President Ruto, President Uhuru, there was always some dialogue. People came and sat together. So I have high expectations that even this time they will talk together and come up with an amicable solution.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. We are hoping that some sort of talks can go on within these parties affected, because at the end of the day, it is the people, the citizens who are protesting, that will bear the brunt of these economic challenges. And we hope that some sort of help or respite can come the way of Kenyans as of now. It's nice to have you join us on this discussion.
Thank you. We'll look forward to that dialogue.